We often think of intelligence as a gift. But what happens when brilliance becomes a terrorist? What if being extremely smart can actually make your life much harder? Today, you will meet a man who was both a math professor and a terrorist. He was one of the smartest people ever, but his brain led him down a very dark path. He used his mind to kill. He was Ted Kaczynsky. Ted Kaczynsky was born in Chicago in 1942. His mom and dad worked hard. His parents wanted the best for Ted and his little brother, David. From a young age, Ted was very smart. His IQ was 167, that's genius level. He did so well in school, they let him skip a whole grade. But that made things hard. He was younger than everyone else, and the older kids didn't like him. Some bullied him. He started feeling alone. Even though his family was kind and helpful, Ted didn't fit in. He didn't have any friends. He was alone. In high school, Ted was still ahead of everyone. He played the trombone, joined lots of clubs, and was great at math. He loved solving hard problems. People at school called him the walking brain, but he didn't have any real friends. He skipped another grade. At just 15 years old, he finished high school. Then he got into Harvard, one of the best schools in the world, at only 16. At Harvard, Ted studied math. He was quiet, always alone. People said he was smart, but strange. During college, Ted joined an experiment. He didn't know exactly what he was getting into. He just thought it was a psychology study. The professor asked him to write about his deepest beliefs, what he cared about, what kind of person he wanted to be, what he thought was right and wrong. Ted poured his heart onto the page, but when he returned, something strange happened. They sat him in a chair. A man across from him began reading his words out loud, and then tore them apart. He called his ideas weak. He laughed at his hopes. He told him he was foolish, worthless, fake, and childish. He didn't just attack the writing. He attacked Ted himself. And this didn't just happen once. First, a man mocked him. Then a woman screamed at him. Next time, it was someone else. Different people came in, one after another, shouting, laughing, tearing him apart. It kept happening, again and again, for more than 200 hours. But that wasn't all. Some believe the experiment went far beyond words. There are theories, persistent ones, that drugs were involved. That what began as a psychology study crossed into psychological warfare. It was the time of the Cold War, after all. Secret government programs weren't just the stuff of conspiracy theories. Many were real and terrifying. Ted was never told the truth. He was just a brilliant young man, walking blindly into something far darker than he could have imagined. And when it was over, he said nothing. No protest, no breakdown. He simply changed. Something in him shut down. He became colder, more distant, not just from people, but from the world itself. He began to see society not as a community, but as a trap. Technology no longer represented progress to him. It was a mechanism of control. Science, he believed, wasn't saving humanity. It was leading it toward destruction. And yet, for a time, he tried to live a life that others might consider normal. He completed a PhD in mathematics in a year, an extreme achievement at a young age, and became a university professor. But the structure of academic life didn't suit him. He hated standing in front of students. felt no connection to them, and loathed the constant interaction and noise. After 2 years, he resigned. No drama, no explanation, just a silent retreat. That was when he truly disappeared. Not physically, not yet, but mentally, emotionally. He withdrew from the world and turned inward. He read obsessively. Anti-technology thinkers, survivalists and philosophers like Jacques Ellul, who warned that technological society would enslave humankind. Then, one day, he walked away from it all. He left the city, the university, the noise and confusion, and built a small cabin deep in the Montana wilderness. No electricity, no running water, just solitude, silence. And slowly, as the years passed, one thought grew stronger than the rest. That modern civilization needed to be stopped, no matter the cost. He spent his days in isolation, chopping wood, filtering water. At first, it was about living simply, away from noise, away from people. But that wasn't all. Each act of survival became something more, a statement, a rejection. He wasn't just building a life. He was building a wall between himself and the world he had grown to despise. Out there in the forest, he found silence, and in the silence, thoughts began to grow. He continued reading obsessively, philosophy, anti-technology manifestos. The library was the only place he ever visited outside of his garden and the surrounding forest. The words of Jacques Ellul, a man who warned that modern technology would one day strip away freedom itself. To Ted, it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like the truth. He believed that all research and development should have been stopped long ago, that everyone needed to retreat completely from the noisy chaos of modern life. The relentless flow of media and technology was nothing but a distraction, an endless noise designed to pull everyone's thoughts away from what truly mattered. Then came the moment that changed everything. A 2-day hike into the wild, one of his favorite places. Untouched. Pure. He reached the plateau, looked out over the land, and then he saw it. A road, cut straight through the wilderness. Machines had come. Again. He stood there, stunned. "You just can't imagine how upset I was," he would later say. "That was the moment I decided I would get back at the system." From that point on, the forest wasn't a refuge. It was a battleground. He started small. Vandalism, sabotage, even traps. Hidden holes in the ground designed to catch people with sharp spikes that could seriously injure anyone unlucky enough to fall in. And with each act, the motivation grew. He wasn't just angry about trees or roads. He was angry about everything. Technology wasn't helping the world. It was destroying it. And he believed, truly believed, that if no one stopped it, no one would survive. So he took it upon himself to fight back, no matter what it cost. Then, Ted's actions escalated. He stopped just damaging property. He started making bombs, homemade explosives, crafted with careful precision in his cabin. He sent these bombs through the mail, targeting people he believed were part of the system destroying the world. The first bomb was sent to the university, addressed to a specific officer, Terry Marker, a campus police officer. One day, a package marked, "Return to sender," arrived for Terry. Because of the label, Terry's assistant took the package back to his office. When the assistant carefully opened it, the package exploded. At first glance, it had looked like any ordinary harmless box. No suspicious markings, nothing unusual. It could have been just like any other package Terry might have received. Terry suffered minor cuts and burns, serious injuries, but he survived. No one died that day. But the warning was clear. Ted was serious, and he was just getting started. Over the years, Ted didn't stop with just one bomb. Between 1978 and 1995, he mailed or hand-delivered a series of bombs, each one more sophisticated than the last. 16 bombs were linked to him in total. His devices were deadly and precise, often bearing the initials FC inside, which Ted later said stood for Freedom Club. His bombs killed 3 people and injured 23 others. Victims ranged from university professors to airline executives. Anyone he saw as part of the technological system he despised. He became known to the world as the Unabomber. But Ted wasn't just about making bombs. He wrote a lot. Pages and pages filled with his thoughts, his fears, his anger at modern technology and society. His writings were angry, precise, and chilling. At one point, he threatened the media directly. If his manifesto wasn't published, he promised to keep bombing. Faced with the threat of more violence, major newspapers agreed to publish his manifesto. It was a risky move, but the hope was that someone, somewhere, might recognize the ideas, the voice behind the terror. Mostly, they allowed the publication hoping it would prevent more deaths, believing that was its true purpose. And so, the Unabomber's words spread wide, sparking fear, curiosity, and eventually, clues that would lead to his capture. His bombs were remarkably well-designed and meticulously crafted. Since he made every component himself using only a handful of common, everyday materials, the devices were almost impossible to trace back to him. To complicate matters even further, Ted deliberately planted misleading clues to throw investigators off the trail, making the investigation even more difficult. As more people heard about him, more people became interested. After the publication of his statements, many began to see him not just as a criminal, but as a symbol, a dark example of rebellion against the growing dominance of technology in modern society. His words sparked fear, curiosity, and even a strange form of admiration. The investigation demanded immense resources and manpower. At its peak, the FBI's Unabomber task force included more than 150 full-time agents from multiple agencies, working tirelessly to catch the elusive bomber. They set up toll-free hotlines to collect thousands of tips from the public and offered a $1 million reward for information leading to his capture. The case engaged the efforts of investigators nationwide, turning into one of the most intense manhunts in FBI history. On April 3, 1996, FBI agents finally caught Ted Kaczynsky. They found him living alone in a small, messy cabin deep in the woods. He was wearing torn clothes, smelled bad, and appeared unwashed. When they searched his cabin, they discovered something shocking. There were pieces to make bombs everywhere, parts, tools, and even one live bomb ready to go. They also found 40,000 pages of his handwritten journals. These pages showed how he made bombs, described his crimes, and revealed his angry thoughts. And right there, the original typed manuscript of his famous manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future. This was the end of a massive manhunt, the most expensive in FBI history at that time. They had spent over $50 million trying to catch him. That's about $110 million today. After he was caught, some people started wondering, could Ted be the Zodiac killer too? The Zodiac had killed 5 people years before in California with guns and knives. Both Ted and the Zodiac were smart, interested in codes and bombs, and sent letters to newspapers demanding their work be published, or else. But the FBI didn't think Ted was the Zodiac. The Zodiac's crimes were different, but that's for another video. For years, the FBI chased shadows, struggling to find the Unabomber's true identity. He was careful, clever, and left almost no trace. But Ted made one mistake, a big one. He asked for his manifesto to be published, and when it appeared in newspapers, something unexpected happened. Ted's own brother, David Kaczynsky, recognized the writing style. The way Ted expressed his thoughts, it sounded familiar. David faced a terrible choice. Should he turn his brother in? After agonizing, he decided the world was safer if the FBI knew. He gave them letters and documents he had kept, hoping they could find proof. The FBI analyzed the writing carefully, words, phrases, ideas, and it matched the Unabomber's manifesto. This gave them the breakthrough they desperately needed. Using this new evidence, agents tracked Ted to a remote cabin in Montana. They arrested him without a fight. After nearly 2 decades of terror, the Unabomber's story was finally over. After his arrest, Ted was examined by mental health experts. They diagnosed him with schizophrenia, but Ted refused to be labeled as crazy. He believed his mind was clear and that he fully understood his actions. Instead of pleading insanity, Ted took responsibility for what he had done. In the end, the court found him guilty. He was sentenced to 8 life sentences without the possibility of parole. He died in 2023 at the age of 81. Ted Kaczynsky's story is a chilling reminder of how extreme anger and isolation can lead to tragic consequences. He was a man who fought against technology in the deadliest way possible, but at a terrible cost. Do you think Ted was a misunderstood genius or just a dangerous criminal? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it interesting. Thanks for watching. Peace.